Oh, I guess we're live. Welcome to Let's Talk. Everybody out there in the chat, this is a call-in show on the Skeptic Haven channel. Let's Talk is a safe place for atheists and those questioning or leaving religion, or anyone that wants to ask questions and have respectful discussions. From the U.S., you can call us at 984-789-4787. And from outside the U.S., if you look down below, there's a little URL on the screen, and you can call in on your computer and have a little chat with us. And I think
this is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.
All right, here we are. We're live.
All
Mr.
right.
Dadpool, how the hell are you, man?
Yes, sir. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. My belly's full of dim sum, and I'm a happy camper. So we're going to have some fun, I think, tonight on the show as soon as we get some folks calling in. And tonight's topic, guys, I mean, Dadpool, man, I often ask myself, in light of today's modern tech and everything that we know about the world and what we so far at least know about the universe, why people still have these oddball kind of beliefs, like they still believe in things like the supernatural or astrology or numerology or whatever you want. Like, why do people still want to believe that? Or not necessarily want, but why do they believe it? Obviously, they were convinced, but I want to know what the hell it was to convince them to keep believing in these kinds of things, even though we know that they are like just nonsensical or pseudoscientific.
Yeah, it's like a natural reaction to some people. Like when you hear a weird noise, they immediately think a ghost made that noise. They don't think like the picture on the wall just wasn't secured properly and that's why it fell.
Right.
They think like, oh, a ghost knocked it off the wall. Like that's for a lot of people, like that's their first assumption when they hear a weird noise.
Yeah, me on the other hand, I'll grab my bat and head to the front door and go, who the hell's trying to break in?
Exactly. Right there with you.
Yeah, but you got swords. I don't have swords. So
yeah.
I wish I had swords. My roommate does have quite the knife collection, but
I don't have any guns though. I used to, but I don't anymore.
I thought you're all like ninja-like and you could just deflect bullets with your swords anyways. Pating, pating,
I wish.
Come at me, gun boy.
It's funny.
Yeah,
like,
it's weird.
I was thinking about this topic earlier, and I realized like when people hear a weird noise in their house, they immediately, like some people immediately go to like the supernatural, right? Like we were talking about a second ago. But when the noise comes from outside the house, they're like, oh, maybe there was a car accident or there's some teenagers out there messing around.
Firecrackers.
Yeah, firecrackers, exactly. So when it comes to outside of their like immediate like safety zone, they have no problem like giving way to naturalistic explanations as to why they hear those kinds of noise. But when it happens in their house, then they're like, my grandmother is trying to communicate with me or something,
Yeah.
I was thinking about it earlier. I have a bunch of family members and friends who like swear their house is haunted. I'm sure you do too. Everybody does.
Oh, I used to think I lived in a haunted
house. Everybody has that relative is like, my house is haunted, or they used to live in a haunted house.
Yeah.
Like, why is the house haunted? Why isn't like the street outside the house haunted? Why do ghosts have to hang out in your house?
Your house? Well, there's always people. You always hear the stories. Oh, well, there were, somebody was murdered in this house, and the spirit of that person still exists in the house, and they're angry, and they're throwing your dishes around and stuff like that. I've seen some videos. I think part of the problem is now that we have like YouTube and stuff like that, people can make all kinds of neat little videos that make it look like they're real, right? So you'll have somebody driving down the street, and all of a sudden there's this weird specter in the middle of the road, and it moves over to the side of the road as they're driving, and they go, oh my God, look, there's a ghost in the middle of the road. But we don't really know that that's actually what it was, but it was probably a fake video, and people bite into that like big time.
Oh,
Go,
yeah.
oh, look at that, wandering spirits.
Dude, when I was a teenager, there was a road close to where we lived that was alleged to be haunted. It was a bridge, and they said like someone was hung from the bridge,
Right.
And then that the ghost of that person haunts that area today. So like me and a few friends went with cameras, and this was like 20 years ago. So we're out there with these old cameras, and we're walking on this bridge, and we're recording. And then we go back to like a diner afterwards, and we review the footage, and we see like these specks, these little specters or something. And we're like, oh,
Orbs.
was that the ghost? Yeah, orbs. Yeah, like was that the ghost? Did we just see it? Did we capture ghosts? And like, no, there's lint on the fucking screen. Yeah. But yeah, it was just the light hit it a certain way, or there was debris on the lens. Like, there's plenty of other explanations, but your mind immediately goes to like these weird places. You don't think about those things because you don't know that's an option.
Right. Well, I think you do know, but you are so used to going in the direction of the supernatural because it seems to be unexplainable to you.
Yeah.
So you automatically think of naturalistic explanations. You automatically think of, oh, well, it must be something supernatural, right?
Yeah, something weird's going on.
Yeah, like even when we were camping, and I remember camping and we had the fire going, and I went for a little bit of a walk up down the trail, which probably wasn't a good idea because there's lots of cougars in the area, and not the good kind.
Like
and,
the cat cougars, or like
yeah, that's what I said, not the good kind,
not like older women cougars.
right. But and I'm walking, and there was a little bit of fog at the time. But you could see little puffs of the smoke pass by, and it almost looked very spectral, right? Like little things go past your vision, and you're like, well, shit, that's just a puff of smoke because it's coming right from the area of where our campfire is. But, if I still had this belief in supernatural, I might go, holy shit, there's something here that's watching our camp. Like, what's going on? And it wasn't like a regular campsite. It was like we were away from everyone. Like, it wasn't a registered type campsite or whatever. So we like to go out in the bush for good, like deep out there and
get that good bush.
Yeah, get that good bush. And I love camping, so it's always fun to do that. Except I need a bigger tent now, man. I can't get up in my I can't stand up in my tent anymore. So
no, did
my
you
head
grow as you got older? Are you taller now?
No, I think I shrank, but still, I bought it on a whim just to use it for a family get together because they have everyone get together at a ranch, and we all sort of have our little campers and tents, and we gather around the fire there and stuff. But lying in it last summer, my head is bulging out one end of it, and my feet are bulging out the other end of it, and I'm like, this is like a perfect target for some kind of animal. They could just come gnawing on my brain while I'm sleeping. It smells good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so definitely got to get a new tent or a fucking camper or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't gone camping in a long time, but I used to love to do it when I was younger. But about this time next month, I'm going to like a convention type thing where I'm going to be camping. So I got to take a tent with me. I'm like, oh man, I was in the Army and I was in the National Guard, and I used to, you have a little camp or tents that you pop up wherever you can. But besides that, this will be my first like, oh man, I haven't been camping in a while. I'm kind of excited about it.
That's fun. It should be an awesome time. When you say it's like a convention type thing, get together type thing, is that like a Daryl Ray's campsite?
I'm not really sure. It's the first time. So there's this big TikToker that I'm friends with. For those who don't know, I have like 500,000 followers on TikTok. This guy has like 5 or 6 million followers.
Oh shit, I got like 12.
12 million? Wow, dude.
No, like 12 followers.
Killing it. Oh, don't be bashful now. No, but like,
Wish.
but he's a good friend of mine. But he had this wild idea of holding like this huge like nerd event, and he has like a whole bunch of property and land. So he was like,
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna have like LARPing over here, and there's gonna be like armored battling over here, and there's gonna be like a cosplay contest over here, and
Nice.
so it's this huge thing that's happening. And I was like, oh
Nice.
man, I definitely, it's only like 6 hours from me, so
That's
like
not
I could
bad.
definitely, I want to go check this out.
Sounds like a hoot.
But yeah, like he's like, there's a space where people can go camp out. Like, come bring your tent. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Do you have a tent?
Anyway.
Like,
How do we even get here? Where are we going with this?
I don't know. We're just talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I brought up the campfire, so that's how we ended up talking about the tents and camping and stuff. But so, in your past at all, like I've had you on my show, of course, and talked about your diversion and all that. But I can't remember if I asked you if you ever went down like a paganism path or into Wicca or anything like that, which includes things like, Ouija boards and astrology and stuff. Did you ever fall for any of that stuff? Like I did.
Not really, but there was a period because there's a difference between leaving your religion and no longer believing in God, right?
Right.
Like,
sure.
There was a period where I was like, I don't believe I'm Christian. I can't identify as Christian anymore. I just honestly can't. And there was like 2 or 3 years after that where I was like, I don't think I believe in God anymore. But in that period, there was a brief time where I was like, okay, I'm not Christian anymore. What am I? And I started looking into like Buddhism, right?
Okay, sure.
And these other like sort of spiritual, meditative, like Hinduism and things like that. And I stopped myself. I was like, wait, I'm good. Why am I trying to replace something that was never supposed to be there in the first place? You know what I mean? Like I realized like I don't need to fill a void. There's no void to fill.
Right.
So it was like I'm good just not being religious in any way, shape, or form. I'm fine with that. Like, and yeah, that was kind of a freeing moment for me because I was really desperately trying to, because I was afraid of leaving my religion, because you kind of like forfeit your identity when you do that.
Sure.
So you're like, then what am I? If I'm not this, then what am I? I gotta find and then part of me was like, dude, calm down. You're good. You don't need anything else. Just
no.
You don't have to believe in anything. It's fine.
Oh, you can believe in things, but let's try to keep our belief in things that are actually provable.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's really not a belief anymore. That just becomes knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So you can have beliefs. I believe in things myself. Like I used to say, I'll believe I'll have another beer, but unfortunately, I can't fucking drink anymore. So
I'm so sorry. That sucks.
I know. I still sneak the occasional beer. I found that I've never been a big fan of the alcohol-free or the 0.5% beers that are out there that are like
near beer.
They call them near beer, yeah.
Yep.
And most of them are like just trash. They're garbage. So I finally found some ale type ones that are actually pretty tasty. So I've been drinking some of those. And it almost it literally tastes like you're having a beer. They're not that crappy kind of Ozols or something like that garbage.
Oh, God.
But yeah, I know. I found some at a local pub near where I work. So a lot of times the guys will go for beer after work, and I'll go and I'll have one of my one of those near beers. But they actually taste good. They're not crap. So that's always a positive.
We had the when I was deployed in Iraq, we had the Ozols.
Oh God!
And it was just like, dude, we had some people like, or some of my fellow soldiers would like take the near beers and they'd take them to their room and they'd try to freeze them so that the alcohol would like rise to the top because you know the alcohol doesn't freeze. So they like try to freeze it and then they'd like drip the little bit of alcohol off the frozen near beer, and they'd try to make like an actual beer out of it. And I never tried it, but apparently, according to them, it never worked. But they tried.
Probably would taste like crap too.
Yeah.
It's like how much would actually have like this little thin ass layer on top there, like next.
Yeah,
to
like how many near beers do you need to like freeze and siphon that layer off of to make an actual beer? Like
a truckload.
It wouldn't be worth it. Like at that point. But they tried nonetheless.
More energy in, not enough out of it.
Yeah, but
it's gross. No chance.
Yeah, but you know when you're in the Middle East for a year, you know what else you're gonna do? You know, so
I guess
like I get it. At the same time, I'm like,
find a bootlegger.
Yeah, right.
When we were kids, we used to hang out in front of the liquor store to get dudes to buy us beers when we weren't old enough to go in there and get them. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes we got busted.
Oh, nice. See, I was when I was when I was young, I would go to my grandma's house every other weekend, and she lived in like the middle of the woods. But she had a neighbor that would throw these like parties every now and then. So. And they made like Jello shooters. So me and I had a cousin friend of mine, and we go and like sneak these Jello shooters. And I was like, I was like 12, 13 at the time.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Like I don't blame you. The Jello shooters to a kid, that's like if you didn't even know there was alcohol in it, you could get pretty wrecked.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But
I've still nobody calling in. Guys, if you want to talk to us, give us a call. The 984-789-4787, or you can use the little URL that's floating along the bottom of the screen there and give us a call and talk about things that you may not believe anymore, but you once did. And we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about why we kept believing even when we knew it was nonsense. Yeah, because that was pretty much my case for quite some time. I'm like, I don't buy this stuff, but for whatever reason, it seems interesting and intriguing, and now, you know, going through years of study and science and stuff to be a chemist and whatnot, and well, a hack chemist.
That's right. You got a master's degree in chemistry, don't you?
No, fuck no, dude, no. I have chemistry schooling enough to know what I do for a living, right? So, and a bit more.
I don't know where I got a master's degree from, but I knew you knew a bit about chemistry.
Oh, I do. I know quite a bit, but I'm no like master chemist by any stretch. But I do know when I hear bullshit about chemistry. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like these idiot sticks going on like TikTok or YouTube about you shouldn't drink raw milk. It's good. No, don't drink raw milk. You got like a 400% chance of getting sick on that shit. So don't get me drinking that shit. Fucking idiots. Drink pasteurized milk. It's much better for you.
Yeah, was it?
One gal was like, she was drying the raw milk, and it goes, and then there was a little bit left, and it starts to turn into buttermilk. I go, that's not buttermilk. You have to churn butter to get buttermilk. That's called rotten milk. Don't drink that either.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Unless you like E. coli, I don't know. I guess go for it if you like. Well, Michael Bell in the chat says he's got a degree in computer science. That's awesome.
I don't know what computers are. I don't know what that word means.
I feel like this is the old Palmolive commercial. You're soaking in one right now.
Jesus.
Reaching into the television hall of flame there.
But yeah, going back to the why people believe in the supernatural, I've done quite a bit of reading on this topic, and it's interesting. There's how much of a evolutionary component there is to this.
Yeah,
because think back when you're a caveman. Excuse me. If you're a caveman and you hear a rustle in the bush, right? You can think it's just the wind, or you can think it's a predator stalking you.
Mhm. Mhm.
So more often than not, they would instinctually assume it was a predator, and they would go investigate and make sure, okay, it's just the wind, we're fine. So like it's like a sense of self-preservation, a survival instinct
Sure.
that's been in our genetic code for a very, very long time. So when we today hear a bump in the night, it's not that weird that people would assume there's some sort of danger there.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Because most people aren't going to be aware of the naturalistic explanations for things. You know,
Right.
earlier, like, oh, they didn't put the proper mount in the sheetrock to hang a picture, and that's why it fell. Like most people aren't going to think about that when a picture falls off the wall. They're going to think, oh, a ghost knocked it off.
Mhm.
Like that's the easiest explanation
Yeah.
for
Or
most
could
people.
have been a tremor that you just didn't feel.
Could have been, yeah.
Right.
Oh,
And
such a good.
you're tremors, yeah. Yeah, like sure, there's all kinds of reach for the reasonable explanations before you start dipping into the supernatural.
Yeah. And I often wonder how much our like culture plays into that because I don't know what it's like up there in Canadian land, Neil, but here in America, God is in control of everything and simultaneously is not in control of anything at all.
You're right.
So so when something happens, like it's either God caused it to happen or God allowed the devil to make it happen, kind of thing.
Allowed, yeah.
Yeah. So like
Oh fuck.
our culture is so like steeped in this like Christian mindset that everything's
Mhm.
God, everything's demons, everything's the devil. So, and we're primed to think that way. And I remember like growing up as Christian, I had an episode where I had the sleep paralysis demons.
Mhm.
Those like it. I woke up and I saw like two figures at the foot of my bed, and I couldn't move, and I was scared. And the next day I went to my church, and I asked my pastor, I was like, "This can demons attack you when you're asleep?" And he was like, "Yeah, they can." And then like later on, I did research, like, yeah, sleep paralysis demons is totally normal. It's just a result of imbalances in the brain. Where
During
the
a waking
chemicals that
period.
chemicals that cause your body to not be able to move but still think things. It's a whole thing. It was like, oh,
Yep.
so there's a totally naturalistic explanation as to why this very real thing happened.
Yep.
But at the time, you don't think that way. At the time, you're in the church and you think you're a soldier of God, and the devil's going to attack you because God has plans for you. So the devil wants to stop those things from happening. So when I saw those things, I was like, oh, the devil wants to stop me from. So that's, yeah, when you're in that kind of like culture, I guess, or lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, that's kind of where my mind went automatically. I never once entertained the thought that there's a natural explanation for this. I immediately thought the devil. That's the first thing I thought. Yeah. So I think a lot of people here are in like Christian cultures are primed for that sort of thinking.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Part of the indoctrination. Yeah. No, for sure. I agree 100%. And I think I think, on a psychological level, I think a lot of these beliefs just can also stem from life just seeming to be so mundane, and we've got this idea of a supernatural that seems so much more exciting, and people tend to lean towards things that seem to be exciting, so they're a lot easier to convince about these things. And I saw somebody put a quote that I thought was pretty good, but it seems to have disappeared. And I agree with this one too. Karen Butcher put, intermittent reinforcement is a great method for instilling superstition. So to me, that's like what, like I call the echo chamber effect. Like if you're with a bunch of your friends and you're doing things that are all about the supernatural, then, and they're there to reinforce your belief, like, oh yeah, for sure. Oh, it's got to be your dead aunt that's trying to get in touch with you right now, or something like that, right? Like, and when you have people all around you that are, ensconced or in whatever the fucking term is, so deep in their belief that you're easily convinced by those people as well. It looks like we do have a call.
Oh, do we? Better not be my mom.
It would be your mother.
It would be my mom.
All right. So we have a caller, Sven from Washington.
Sven. I like it.
Good evening.
How are you, Sven?
Doing well, thanks. And yourself?
Oh, I'm a happy camper today. I'm always like happy when I spend time with my mom, though. So,
is it Sven, like the
reindeer
moose from Frozen?
Yeah.
It is? Okay, that's cool.
So, Sven, what did you want to talk about today?
Jesus.
What?
I guess kind of the question why people believe in the supernatural. I guess I could start by asking, would you consider that like most people could be categorized as either nominalist or Platonist / idealist? They either accept universals exist or they do not.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that.
Yeah.
Except that the universe exists?
Universal, so like roundness to the nominalist is just something that explains a phenomenon in the natural world, but to a Platonist, roundness describes a circle, which is a thing.
Sure, or a sphere, or whatever. Yep.
Yeah, I think I know. I think
there's a spirit of,
So
there is an immaterial that is represented by the material, is what I would say most theists have in common, if there is a common ground to be found in theism. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think they do believe in immaterial things. What about you, Dadpool?
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the question. Yeah, could you maybe rephrase it a different way? Like you're asking, or you're wondering if people use like this nominal explanations to explain natural. Sorry, I don't even know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, so most atheists are going to be nominalists, so they hold that things like justice, roundness, redness, they are just functions that exist in the world that come from, what would the word be? Like an evolution when something is combined and it evolves from that. There's a word that starts with a C. Help me out, maybe.
Well, you're kind of right there. I mean, that's pretty much what we know of anyway so far is a bacteria was infested by a different single-cell organism, and shortly after that, though, they started to multiply, and now we get multiple cellular organisms. But
and you would call consciousness like not a conversion, but what you know what I'm saying? It's a certain property that comes from, like, souls are consciousnesses to most Platonists, and so we believe there was always an essence of a soul. It just happened to appear on Earth one day, or in this universe. But you would, an emergent. I'm so sorry, I don't know why I said C.
Emergent property of the brain, yeah, right.
The emergent properties of the universe, whereas Platonists and theists are going to say these concepts that we have actually exist.
Right.
That's
Well, I don't believe.
people into the best we can.
Sure, but I have a problem with this concept of the soul being or consciousness being an emergent property of the universe, because the universe doesn't have a consciousness. It's just space and all the matter within it. Whereas our brains, consciousness is an emergent property of our brains. You could say that we are part of the universe because everything that's inside of us was once out in the universe, and stars exploded so that we could be here. So all of the properties that are floating around in space are also inside of us. So in that sense, you could say we're connected to the universe that way, and therefore we're kind of like an organism that came from the universe in order to see the universe and experience it. But I don't really go down that rabbit hole myself. I just think that we are literally an accident of evolution. So, and when we evolved into the beings that we are today, part of the ape family, we just happen to be higher up on the tree, let's say, and we had an emergent property of our consciousness, which led to all kinds of innovations and really cool stuff like language and understanding of the sciences and mathematics and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it sounds like you know more about Neoplatonism or Platonism than I do. So correct me if I'm wrong. But if I'm recalling correctly, and Platonism believes that the soul has always existed from the beginning of time. Is that correct?
Yes, we are recalling knowledge that we lost from our previous existence. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The problem is there's just no evidence of something like that. Like, I understand, like, I'm a student of history and philosophical history at some points. Like, I know how these ideas evolved and changed over time, but in the end of the day, there's no way to say the soul, every soul existed at the beginning of time. You can say that, you can believe that, if that brings you comfort, sure. If it makes sense to you, okay. But when it gets, if you want to get down to it, there's no way to provide any kind of evidence for that. I don't know much about consciousness. Sounds like Neil knows a lot more about it than I do. But it's hard to say. All right, yeah, I'm not even sure I was going with that. Sorry.
Well,
It's okay.
a soul.
I'm not here to provide. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I could chime in a little bit.
Okay. I would like to address your previous point still, but we can add another one.
Oh, if you would like to, yeah, sure, you can do that if you want.
Certainly, yes. I wasn't saying that like consciousness isn't that nominalist or atheist tend to believe that consciousness is part of the universe. When I just meant that like all things that we describe as properties, the nominalist is going to say is an emergent property. Like we'd ascribe as things as having consciousness. We ascribe things as having roundness. Like they gain these just based on how the determinist naturalist world shapes them. Like, is that, you would agree that's how you view things, right?
Yeah, you mean by ascribing properties to things?
True about something being round. You think there is such a thing as like a circle that we can reflect on all round things, base all round things upon.
Sure, but are all round things circles?
Mm.
No. We're talking about the perfect circle. Like the Platonist is going to say there is a form of a circle. We can't have circles in reality. It's understood by, we talked about this before, like you can't have a perfect circle in our reality by definition. We have the math to almost describe it, but our world is too blurry. When you zoom down, there's going to be errors.
Sure.
But to claim as there is such a thing as a perfect circle because we have the concept of a perfect circle. But you're just going to say there is things that represent roundness or circleness in the world, and we as conscious beings can just see that as an emergent property of the universe. Is that a correct
Okay.
divergence?
Yeah, I'm on board with that. Sure. I just don't think that consciousness itself is an emergent property of the universe.
The only thing I can say about A Perfect Circle is I love their cover
You
of
think
Imagine.
consciousness always existed?
It's a great take on the classic. Yeah,
I like it as well. But that's neither here nor there, Mr. Dadpool.
Yeah, we're very much outside of my wheelhouse. So
Okay. All right.
But I was going to preface all that to get down to the question of why do people believe in the supernatural. I think that we all start with our intuition, and then as our brains develop, we gather better reasoning, and we can hear and learn arguments from people that can convince us to change our intuition, where once we heard trees and we're like, oh, there's screams outside, let's stay inside. Then we observe trees. We can, now assume it's not a scream anymore. But it is still our intuition that led us there and led us to, we almost have to use intuition to reason. Like there's no really explanation to reason except that it is intuitive to us. And so I think nominalists are going to hear the neuroscience, the physics, the chemistry, and they're going to say those are amazing explanations for this intuition I have always had. And then you're going to have Platonists who are like, what do you mean there's no such thing as a circle? It's just a concept we have. You mean there's no such thing as a soul? Like I am a person having my own individual experience. So I think there's just our intuition that can either be swayed into the nominalist view, or we're always going to hold on to a little part of their unanswered questions.
Right. Yeah,
so
sure.
Do you think intuition is kind of, I'm not sure how to word this.
I would say, do you think intuition is reliable?
Yeah, or adherent automatically to the supernatural? Because I said that because what I was talking about earlier, like cavemen, they had intuition. And when they heard a weird noise coming outside their cave, they didn't think it was a ghost. They thought it was a lion, or something that was going to come in and kill them.
Predator.
As far as we know, anyway. They didn't think it was a ghost or a demon or something else. They rather than thinking, oh, maybe it's just the wind, they thought maybe it's a predator. So do you think that intuition automatically lends itself to supernatural explanations? I'm not sure if that made sense. I'm sorry.
I do believe that.
Okay, so why?
To quickly answer Neil's question, I think intuition is only as reliable as it can be, and it is limited. And that's why it is good to use a step above intuition, reason, to try to better lead, your understanding to truth. But I don't think that means we can just intuition away, because without intuition, I don't believe we really have reason or rationality.
So you said reason is a step above intuition?
Yeah, you can see two apples, and the law of identity, when we philosophically lay it out, says there's one apple and one apple. There are two apples. So that is just something that our brain is computating. There are, there are quarks constantly going. There's wild science happening. The world is in constant motion. You can never know a place and something speed at the same time. So a lot of things just have to be intuited. And yes, and I think reason is one of those things that is built upon intuition. You didn't have to be taught that there were two apples in front of you. You used your intuition to know that. But
Sure.
there is reason that explains the law of identity and why we can say I have two different things in front of me, though I can call them the same thing.
Sure. Now, intuition is useful. Don't get us wrong. We use it more than I think people realize. We use our intuition, but it's usually based on previous information too. Like you had an experience, and that's leading into your intuition on this new experience. So I think we use it more than people realize we do. But I don't see what I mean. Consciousness at our level is probably what gives us that intuition and the ability to reason based on that. So, but at the very basic level, consciousness is nothing more than a series of atoms and electrons, which essentially give us our mind.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we can do mind versus brain. I agree that all that makes our brain. I just don't agree that our mind and our brain are synonymous. I hold that those are two different entities.
How are they two different things?
Well, let's put it this way. If your brain shuts down, so does your mind.
I'm not
can't
convinced
have a-
of that yet, but okay.
Well,
I'm
okay.
convinced you don't need a brain to have a. I believe in a world in a realm of forms. I mean, obviously, the good, the one being that exists there has to have consciousness. If there is such a thing as consciousness, that logically follows with Platonic idealism.
Which being?
It's just good. It's the one. It's classical Platonism. I'm not a Neoplatonist Christian. It's just the good. It's separate from all evil. It can't interact with evil by its very nature. If it did, it would be them behaving evil, and that would go against its nature, which is just contradicting to me. So just a very generic classical Platonic version of God, the good or the one.
Look, it doesn't matter to me what philosophical explanation you have or hold or are beholden to when it comes to your theistic beliefs. Where do you think?
I was asked. So
What's that?
That's fine. That's fine.
I felt like I was asked, was why I shared it.
Oh no, that's fine.
Karen actually made a good point there. The brain is an anatomy. The mind is a physiology.
Yeah.
And once your brain shuts down,
Yes, Dadpool. I just wanted to clarify that I was explaining my specific theistic view because I was specifically asked about it.
I'm not coming after you. I'm just
I just so far separated from
trying to understand where you're coming from. I really am.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, ask away. It just felt like you were shutting down my reasoning. So, but if you are trying to understand, please ask away. Huh? Sorry.
Okay. What reasoning was I shutting down? Again, genuine question. Not coming after you.
You don't care which philosophical fool I give to have my theistic belief. Something like that along those lines was what I heard.
Yeah.
But
how do you use philosophy to justify your theistic beliefs? I guess that's a good way to start. Because you talk about your philosophical words. You talk about your philosophical backgrounds. How do they justify your beliefs? What school of philosophy or what school of philosophical thought is superior to the others when we're talking about the existence of a supernatural being? Which one has better arguments than the other?
you mean philosophically?
Yeah.
Me, the generic classic concept of the good, the ultimate good being, the one.
Okay, I see where you're going.
All right. So where is this ultimate good being?
He had called him just the creator, which was combining the demiurge with the one, and it was like they couldn't have two different entities, but like to Platonists, you have to have a demiurge or something evil to have this evil world, because the one is all good, and so it cannot interact with evil or
Are you
with
a Gnostic?
It's just a generic thing. The Gnostics use the term demiurge, but I don't believe in saying there's one school of thought that's superior. If there I was, I'd be a theist, and I'd say, hey, Neoplatonism, Aquinas, he said good Plato.
I thought you were a theist.
I'd just be a Catholic. But no, I think it's far more complicated than just finding one doctrine that works for.
I'm so confused. Gotta be honest, man. I'm trying to have an honest dialogue with you, but I really don't even know where you're coming from at this point.
So I kind of want to know if you believe that consciousness is something that's always existed since the beginning, we'll say, even though we don't really know if that is a beginning or just a next step in something else. But anyways, we do know we have laws of the universe that we're well aware of, like pretty much the physics underlying everyday life is well known by physicists. So to say that particles that operate after our physical demise, that's not within the laws of the universe. The laws of the universe do not allow these particles to operate after our demise. So to say that consciousness is something that has been around since the beginning, I'm going to say I don't think so. Consciousness has. I mean, I don't think so, but I mean, I guess it's possible. Maybe there were some other life forms around long ago. They were also conscious. I don't know, but we know for our own consciousness, when the mind goes, or when the brain goes, the consciousness goes with it. So
I don't think you can say we know that, but you can say we're pretty certain of it, and I wouldn't judge you. I'd say you're pretty confident in that. But
you're right.
I don't think we can know anything about a next life because no one has. It's unfalsifiable. You can theoretically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It is unfalsifiable, which is why we don't really bother with that until something happens where we have some evidence to falsify, and that hasn't happened yet. But I'm talking about the laws of the universe as we know it that don't allow the particles to operate in that fashion after we die. They disperse back out.
Yes, or Platonists who say it is the particle that is the soul. It's
Well,
usually
that's
defined
what our brains are. They're particles.
the brain.
Right?
Love
Neurons.
it. I agree. I'm talking about a mind that I consider a separate entity.
Right. Except it's not, though. That's the problem. They are connected. Whether you like it or not, they are connected. You can't have a mind without a brain.
Okay, if you don't want to accept my definition, that's fine. I'll say there is the brain, and then there is the phenoph. And the phenoph is immaterial. It is not
The phenoph?
So you can't tell me there is not a phenoph. Sure, if you don't want me to use the mind because you've co-opted mind to not mean mind versus body.
I didn't co-opt anything.
Really?
I'm talking about physics.
No, you said it's not. You said it is the same thing, the mind and the body. It's not. There are well-known arguments of the mind and the body, the dualist, the monoist, the nominalist, the platonist. So,
sure, but they're arguments. They're not evidence.
Ready for you to use these.
Do you understand? Like there may be arguments, and that's great, but they're not evidence.
You're
arguments.
laughing like we have no idea what you're talking about, and you're right. We don't. You're coming from all these different angles.
Everything I'm saying, but you told me to call. You're like, why do you believe in people? Why do people believe in supernatural? And I'm like, here it is.
Yeah, but your
like,
explanations don't make any sense.
The mind and the brain is the same thing. It's just definitionally not to most people.
You're
if you
throwing
want
out a bunch of buzzwords.
Different words. That's all I said.
Don't even connect with each other.
Well,
like I'm genuinely trying here, and like nothing you're saying makes any sense.
Well, yeah, but you just didn't take much in philosophy.
I usually write something else so I can have something to follow. I do have autism. I just called because there were no lines filled tonight.
Okay, that's great. Can you make a simpler form of it, please, next time you call?
No, please. Have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, thanks for calling. And I believe we have somebody else on the line now.
Good. Hopefully this will be a little bit more
Roberto from Cuba.
straightforward than God.
And atheists have no rational justification for denying the truth of claims of Christianity. That's what we're going to be talking about here. Okay, I don't know what that has to do with. Well, I guess it would have to do with supernatural because religion is based in supernatural. So,
wait, what was it again? I'm sorry. What was the question?
All right. Well, how about we let Roberto tell us
Yeah,
the
please.
question. Hey, well, welcome, Roberto.
Ustedes son un par de maricones, no sabiendo la origen del universo. Nada puede existir si Dios no lo crea. Es imposible a tener la existencia si Dios no ha creado todos.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but I disagree with your premise.
Hold on, Roberto. Do you speak
Todas
English?
sus palabras son absurdos y ni saben lo que están hablando. Ni saben lo que están hablando. Destruyendo la cultura. Malhaderos.
I don't understand any of this.
Yeah, can't.
Son malhaderos, malagradecidos y mal carácter.
Yeah, no, I hear you. The problem is you're appealing to supernatural claims that have no basis in reality. Can you explain why they do?
No tengo que explicar nada porque es evidente.
You're not hearing me. You're not hearing me.
Ustedes son lo que no quieren.
All right, I'm messing around. I'm sorry.
Un corrupto y maldito. Y si sigues en esta rutina, se va a ir para el infierno.
Damn it, where's Alma when they need her?
Yeah, right. No habla español. What was the name?
Yo
Yes,
oro por tus almas, porque son descarados de este mundo.
No de
Hijos
son de carouse. I'm sorry.
We have a language barrier here, guys. So maybe
Malas personas y corrupta.
All right.
let's.
Oh, look at that. It's about time for another caller.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Roberto. We can understand what you're talking about, so
Yeah,
we're gonna
no,
let you go.
No habla español, Roberto. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so when you feel like actually talking to us in English, then maybe you can call back.
Sorry, I spoke in such a way that was incomprehensible. I've learned better than to speak here then. No, Sven, you haven't learned at all. You need to learn to articulate your ideas in a more clear and concise manner because you were all over the place. And I'm a pretty learned fella, and I could not understand what you were trying to say.
So do we have another caller here?
Anyway, sorry.
It says we have one, but I don't see anything.
Do we?
Yeah. Call in queue. Oh, it's Pat from Washington. Okay. So.
Pat. Oh, no. Oh, God. I gotta go. It's late.
Gentlemen, how you doing this evening?
Hey, Pat, I realized you were actually on the line. So sorry about that, and welcome to the show.
Oh, no problem. I called in, aid first to torment you, but to take a little bone. So, good evening, gentlemen. How you doing?
Not too bad, you?
Oh man,
I'm good.
Do you have a question, or are you here to school us?
Statement that Ricky made about. Oh, okay. What is it?
I was like, do you have a question, or you're here to school us on everything that we've been wrong about?
No, I'm not gonna school you. I'm inquiring as to. You made a statement earlier regarding, the response, that evolutionary response to predator prey, right? The sometimes, whoa, there he goes. They're already laughing. The evolutionary
I'm
response
not laughing.
to
I was saying
predator prey behavior, right? Like detection, agency detection, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you know more about this than I do? I'm not even going to.
Well, I do. I was just going to say, I think it makes you prone to supernatural causation. I think leading anthropologists and psychologists in the field think that what happened is all that the predator response was followed by a need to adfill causation, right? So when the first caveman, as Ricky said, hey, maybe it's something in that bush. When there was nothing there, they gave it a cause. And that cause became supernaturalized, right? So we're maybe wired to actually believe in the supernatural. Like, there's a lot of work, like Matt J. Rosano is a leading guy in this field. And he's basically done a lot of work saying many of us may not be able to escape a default position of supernatural causation. Like, so to say, just quit religion or something, may be something we're hardwired to not only resist, but be unable to do.
Sure. I agree. Yeah. I think some people are far more incapable of that than others, for sure. However, I do find that people, sorry, Pat, just give me 1 second. I do find that people like you and I that end up in one form or another of the sciences tend to be more willing to give that up than others who may not go down that path.
Oh, I agree. And I think those in the field would say our predisposition to science and scientific inquiry and, may actually also predispose us to rejecting that predetermined position, that psychology, right? Mm-hmm. So one may just go hand in hand with the other.
Yeah, for sure.
Just curious. No, I had to give Ricky shit because his wife said give him shit. So that's why.
I win.
This is why you're not allowed to be here.
Pat
no, but I think you guys are doing a great show. I think topics like this, like, the psychology of religion is fascinating. You guys know it's related to my research. So like, I find this stuff just fascinating per se, and you guys are doing a great job. I won't actually give you any more crap right now, and I'll let you take some other callers.
You give me all the crap you feel the need for, Pat. I learned so much from you.
Yeah, he's right. You're a smart guy, Pat.
Those like general history, like you said, and early church history stuff, Ricky. You need to really, and theology, you need to take your hat off and take a bow once in a while. Just do it. If I had dollar bills, I'd cram them in your Eastern right now. But unfortunately, this is a family calling show.
Yeah, I got to rub them first. Remember from the beginning of the show?
Well, however it works.
Cheers, Pat.
I heard you guys go pretty far to get those Patreon dollars. That's all I'm going to say. All right, no, I'm done. Let someone else.
You guys are getting paid.
So
take care.
Up to my OnlyFans.
Take care, you guys. Great show.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Pat.
You too. At this moment, before we go to another call, I'm not sure if we have one yet, but as you can see, there's a little ticker down below there that's pointing out all of the patrons to this wonderful channel. So I wanted to give a big thank you to all the patrons that are supporting the show. Helen Green, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod, Eric Ozols, Rion, Deneen Murphy, Dandy, Michael Wiseman, Cindy Plaza, Sunny Shell, Aaron Coalson, and Phil Calderone. And I've pretty much had every one of those people on my show, except for maybe one or two. But I don't know why I always say that, but it sounds great.
Because it's always true. You've had everyone on your show.
Well, pretty much. But before we take our next call, as soon as we get one, I do also want to point out that Skeptic Haven is always looking for volunteers to help behind the scenes. So if you'd like to be a part of our team, send us an email at info@skeptichaven.com. We have Paul Yates in the chat who's saying, he says God, and he's got the little praying hands going on there. Paul, you should call into the show because God technically is part of the supernatural. Let's talk about that. God is good and the devil is evil. Did you know that, Dadpool? I didn't know that.
I've heard that.
From what I can see, I thought the devil was the good guy because he really, according to the biblical scriptures, anyways, he only killed about 10 people, and God killed millions.
Yeah, like if that, like God killed a lot.
Oh yeah, including
And,
pregnant women and babies.
Yeah, and in fact, he killed so many people that the second century Christian Marcion thought that the God of the Old Testament was a completely different God than the one of the New Testament, which I'm sure you've heard. But like, he saw such a stark difference between the Old Testament God and the God that sent Jesus to come and save everybody, that he was like, we need to cancel that God. Like literally, don't get rid of the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible. We don't want to include that in our canon of Scripture. That's clearly a different God. He's much angrier and wrathful and vengeful than Jesus is. So let's get rid of him. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Rachel Brock in the chat says, would God endorse the bear or the man? That's a whole thing that's going on right now. But God would obviously endorse the bear because he sent a couple of them out to maul a bunch of children because they made fun of a bald guy.
Yeah. And, Ezekiel 13, is that?
Yeah, I think so. Something around
Yeah,
there.
like God's clearly a
I
much
would.
bigger fan of bears than he is of humans.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, they poked fun at a guy. Let's maul him with bears or maul the kids with bears.
Yeah.
That'll learn them.
Yeah. And the argument is that it wasn't God that did that. It was Elijah. Because he just had the power of God. And like they'll say like he just misused the power that God gave him.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's the counter argument.
I could guess that.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense, I guess, but yeah. In any case, God did not intervene and be like, whoa, mauling these children for making fun of you for being bald, that's not okay. Like God was like, whatever. Let it happen.
Karen says she's a bigger fan of bears than teens as well. Teens are noisy and they're dirty, right? They leave shit everywhere.
Yeah.
I know. I was a teen once.
I was too. I'm glad I survived past it. Oh, that's the whole comment. Well, that's like a low budget tiger claws. Which is which?
Low, but it's biker pirate. Come on.
I think that's the point. He wants us to guess.
And Sven was mentioning that he's laughing because I was saying that I guess the brain and the mind are two different things. That was what he falls on, and I don't think you can have the mind without a brain. So to me, they are the same. Well, one and the same.
Yeah, like how
the mind part requires a brain, because if there's no brain, there's no mind.
Yeah. How do you justify separating the two?
Yeah.
Like, please tell me.
It probably stems from, God being a consciousness outside of all of this. And it always kind of rubs me the wrong way as well when they say, well, God is immaterial and God is, he's outside of space and time. You require both of those to exist in this universe. So if he's outside of that, then he's outside of what we can call knowledge anyways.
Yeah. God's like the Batman utility belt. Like there's always a convenient like explanation. Like, oh, his ways are beyond our ways. He works mysteriously. We're not gonna understand. Our finite human minds can't comprehend how great. Like, there's always an excuse, like conveniently at the ready. Like, okay, great, but
yeah, it's just unfortunately once the brain dies, that's it. The mind is gone.
No.
Consciousness is gone. It disperses back into the little molecules and whatnot. Like, I'm not sure if Sven is let me see if I can find this here.
You can't Perfect cat.
Field theory. right? Quantum field theory. So every type of particle, which our brain is made of, has its own field, and we can measure that. For there to be something like consciousness outside of a brain, then that consciousness in of itself would have to be a particle of some kind and have its own field, and they have yet to discover that. So I'm not saying it's not real, but they have yet to discover that, and they've been smashing atoms around all over the place in these CERN type places for a long time, and they have yet to come up with any that could be called consciousness or a mind of some sort. It would have to have its own field theory, or its own field, as all particles do.
Jesus, I need to write that down. I'm gonna have to look that up later. You just blew my brain.
Sorry about that.
In a good way. In a good way. Just one moment. Yeah, it's funny. Like one of the things I like to do, because I'm weird, is I like to read a lot of the writings of the early church fathers from like the 2nd and 3rd century. And what you can see is like in early these are apologists in 100, 150, 200 years after Jesus' death, and they're arguing with other people who are saying like Christianity is bullshit. And what they literally say is like the devil has placed incorrect information. That's why you say this. Like you the devil's giving you like false information. Or they'll say, due to your sinful nature, God has prevented you from realizing the truth. That's what they said 1900 years ago. That was their argument. Like, oh, you just don't get it, man. You just don't see it. And so when I hear like arguments like this, it's like the same thing. Like nothing's changed. You know, you just don't get it, man. Like, okay, you're right. I don't. Yeah, it's the same arguments over and over and over again.
I know. I disagree with these arguments. I don't think they're solid. I don't think.
Right, like,
of course, some of these arguments can't be demonstrated either way. Either they're literally just arguments for or against something, I suppose.
Yeah, like I'd rather you tell me you just don't understand. Like, just say that, right? Just tell me I'm not as smart as you, please.
That's not the case, though. You may not understand that particular thing.
Yeah, like just tell me that.
That doesn't make you an idiot.
Right. It's like, just let me know that's what you believe.
It actually has a little bit of what I said earlier. It's a quote from Dr. Sean Carroll, who's a physicist. He says, claims that some form of the consciousness persisting after our bodies die and decay into their constituent atoms face one huge, insuperable obstacle. And I said this earlier, the laws of physics underlying everyday life are completely understood. There's no way for within those laws to allow for the information stored in our brains to persist after we die. And for his evidence, again, Dr. Carroll points to the quantum field theory. In simple terms, the QFT is the belief that there's one field for each type of particle, which they now know. And for example, all the photons in the universe are on one level, all the electrons have their own field, every other type of particle has its own field as well. If life continued in some capacity after death, or even pre-death, then tests on the quantum field would have revealed some sort of spirit or consciousness particle or force, and it's never gone that way. He says, next time I'll call and say you just don't understand. I'm sure that will go so well.
Yeah. Yes, man. If you would just led with that, great. Instead of, anyway, I'm not even gonna.
Yeah, to get Sean Carroll on the show, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, it's just unfortunately, I just I know what Sven is trying to say, but and probably he's been convinced or has convinced himself that what he thinks of this matter is real, but I don't. I don't. I'm more, I guess, into the whole physics side of it, which doesn't demonstrate that to be the case. The Great Conspiracy. Yes. Which one?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say which one. I'm a part of so many. Like, I'm trying so hard. The Uniparty really has me stretched pretty thin, trying to like push all their different narratives, and I can't keep up.
Yeah. Well, in the realm again of the pseudoscience, we'll call it. I discovered recently that my little niece is into astrology.
Oh yeah, how old is she?
Probably 24 now, I think. 23, 24.
Oh, you
somewhere in
said
that range.
little niece. I thought you were talking.
Yeah. She's
I was
little
thinking
to me,
much younger.
anyways. She's a tiny kid. Which is your favorite supernatural and nonsense? Which is your favorite supernatural nonsense? I don't know if I really have a favorite. I don't really know. I used to think magic was real and I could make spells and stuff, but I proved myself wrong on that one multiple times.
Your favorites of supernaturals and nonsense.
Of things in ufology, I think would probably have been my favorite. Study of UFOs and stuff like that, or as they call them now, UAPs, which is
that is catching on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a better explanation, really. Unknown aerial phenomenon.
Yeah,
so
it is, because like the term UFO has been so like tainted with conspiracy theory over the years. Like, even though it just means unidentified flying object, like it's been associated with like flying saucers for so long that like that's immediately what people think of when they hear the term UFO. They don't think like debris from a broken satellite, even though that's exactly what that means. Nobody thinks that when they hear the term UFO.
Right.
So yeah, maybe a change in terminology is due.
Yeah, Kip Davis is great. He's from my neck of the woods. He lives fairly close to me, about an hour away from me. He's good people.
Forensic statement analysis? I don't even understand 3 of those words.
Well, you know what forensics is, right?
I dabble.
Okay.
No.
You know what
I understand
what
what
a statement is, right?
I'm playing
it's
dumb.
the analysis of a forensic statement, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just having fun.
I know those words, just not together.
Just right. Thank you, Wes. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give my mom a call here pretty soon, I think. So she left something in my car from when we were together earlier, and I'm probably gonna have to go drive out there and bring it back to her. So it's something that is very much needed. Let's put it that way.
I'm not gonna pry. I'm just gonna let that hang there.
Well, she had colon cancer. It's been removed, but they couldn't connect everything back, so she has to live now with a bag. So she left this bunch that she picked up in the car. She does have some at the home, but she needs these ones. So I
see a sponge
back to her at some point. Hey, no, the colostomy bag.
Oh, okay. It sounded like you said she left a sponge in your car.
No, she left some in my car.
Okay. Got it. Jesus.
Well, we don't
I
have
have
any calls.
partial hearing loss in my left ear, so sometimes
Oh, yeah.
things
Oh,
are
that
weird
sucks.
for me.
That
That's a good
sucks.
question. Do you think these beliefs are harmful, and are some more than others?
I'd go with the second part of that question. I think that some of these supernatural type beliefs have potential to be harmful, especially when you're talking. If you go into like psychics and astrology and stuff that tells you future or things about you or whatever, and you really fall for that sort of thing, it could lead you down a path that could potentially be harmful to you. There's actually, I can't remember the name of it, but somebody could probably Google it. There is a website you can go to where people talk about their experiences when they were into stuff like that and the kind of harm that it did, whether it be financial or romantic or whatever. They talk about those things that happened and why they are now no longer following things like psychics and astrology. And
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember reading one about a fellow that was acting upon something. I guess an astrologer did his chart for him, and he ended up going broke. His business ended up going broke. So yeah, because he followed the direction that this guy said would be profitable for him, and he ended up going broke.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, so yeah. So
Yeah,
there is a site that has these stories.
Some people have these sorts of like supernatural beliefs, and they kind of keep it to themselves. It kind of them a sense of comfort in the face of the unexplainable, and I think that's okay. That's totally fine. It's a genuine, it's a net positive for their life. Like, go for it. Do you? No problem with that. The problem comes when you try to take advantage, like you were saying, Neil, when you try to take advantage of other people with those types of beliefs, or when you try to take over your government, for example, just throwing something out there, based on the claim that you represent the God of the universe, and he's telling you need to take over this country. That's as long if you can keep it to yourself, no problem. But yeah, once you start to impose it on other people, that's when it becomes an issue.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely agreed. Well, I think we've done some damage here today. Dadpool, what about you?
I do apologize for that. It's been a while since I've done a call-in show, and
that's all right.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I became overfresh. Oh, come on, Pat. I'm not that bad. Come on. It's no love.
Not in my book.
No love at all. It's okay. Everyone likes you better. It's okay.
Well, I guess we can wrap this up then for this week. Thanks everyone for hanging out and watching the show today. Quick reminder, we are always looking for volunteers to help out behind the scenes. So if you want to become part of the Skeptic Haven team and do some work with us, you can email us at info@skeptichaven.com. All right. And we'll get back to you as soon as humanly possible, of course. I also want to say that don't forget that Tuesday nights we have Secular Soapbox. Thursday nights, the Sunny Spot. Saturdays, the Global Atheists and Women Atheists Unload, with lots of great hosts. And of course, Sundays, this show that you're watching right now, Let's Talk. And I hope to be back on in the future. Maybe we'll get to work together again, Captain Dadpool.
Yeah, maybe as long as I didn't blow things too hard this time. But I had a good time. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody.
This is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.